My name is Dr. Agnieszka Malczewski and I'm a medical oncologist working at Icon Cancer Centre, the Wesley. I'm also currently conducting a PhD study part-time. So melanoma is a skin cancer that begins in pigmented cells on our skin. It can also rarely begin in other areas of the body, but most commonly it is a cancer of the skin. And the issue with melanoma is that when we catch it early, we can remove it with surgery. But if we don't catch it early and perhaps allow it to grow, it can in fact metastasize, which means that anything that can start on the skin can unfortunately spread to other important organs such as bones or liver or lungs or brain. It can travel in strange ways. It can go through the bloodstream, it can go through lymph nodes or lymphatics, or it can even travel in a subcutaneous way, so traveling underneath the layer of the skin. I think that most people don't have an awareness that melanoma can spread to other areas of the body. Melanoma doesn't need to be especially big or doesn't need to be a big growth. It can just look like almost like a normal mole that's changed in symmetry or colour or shape or size. So it's really imperative that living in Queensland that everyone has a skin check up to twice per year. Well, the biggest idea is whether we can manipulate immunity or whether we could produce some sort of substance, supplement, whether we can produce something to give to patients to make them respond well to immunotherapies. So cancer immunotherapy is actually a very broad term for any therapies that aim to utilize the immune system to fight cancer. And what we're trying to do with these drugs is to try to activate the patient's own immune system to try to fight the melanoma. So we activate our own killer T cells to go in and hopefully start to destroy the melanoma cells in the body. And we're trying to sort of harness their own immunity to activate it to try to naturally almost destroy the melanoma. Unfortunately, it doesn't always get rid of all of the cancer, but for a proportion of patients, when it gets rid of their cancer, it can actually work very, very well and you can have durable long-term remissions. It's tempting to use the word cure, but sometimes we do see a proportion of patients who are really cured of their melanoma. And so it raises a really interesting proposition of why can't we cure all of our patients of their melanoma using these drugs? And it's got to do with the way the drug interacts with their immunity and the way the drug interacts with immunity and the melanoma. Metabolomics is the study of metabolites. So we know that we all have these trillions of organisms, and we know that we can do special tests and we can find out how those differ between patients. So the biggest influence on your microbiota is going to be your diet. But what we also know is if we have, two people and they're both on a good diet, maybe they don't have the same exact organisms living in their gut. Could it be that these organisms are different, but they're producing the same metabolites or the same chemicals? And those metabolites or chemicals we think have an influence on your immunity. You need T cells to enter the melanoma to mop up the melanoma cells. If you don't have enough of the good killer T cells, the immunotherapy is not going to work. And the question is it these chemicals, these metabolites that are being produced from the gut bacteria that are differentiating the right types of T cells that are conducive to tumour eliminations? So there's no guarantee that immunotherapy is going to get rid of any one person's cancer entirely, but it is different to chemotherapy in that you can sometimes have longer lasting remissions. And it's tempting to use the word cure, but sometimes we do see a proportion of patients who are really cured of their melanoma. What we want to do is we want to identify a very attractive concept is a metabolic signature for the people who have good responses. So what is their metabolic signature? What are their top 5 expressed metabolites? Are they consistent between the good responders? And if they are, can we therefore manipulate the immune system towards producing good responses? So firstly, we hope that all of our melanoma patients benefit from the research. We hope that, melanoma is almost a poster child for immunotherapy. We hope that if we produce results in melanoma, can we then apply them to other cancers? That's the next question. I would like to say thank you to everyone who has donated money to Wesley Medical Research, because from my experience as an independent clinician investigator, it is very difficult to obtain funding for an investigator-led project. All sorts of projects can have good outcomes, but I think sometimes investigators have a burning question that just needs to be answered, and that's why we're grateful for funding.